Divorce TV news time again, and we have an expert interview with Pease Gadoua from Changing Marriage Institute. This should be a very interesting conversation. I have a shared story from the archives, a video from a divorcing dad, and a healing we'll be finishing off with Sarah Jane Lewis, who's a holistic energy practitioner. But let's now move on with the news. First story today is from the BBC. Civil partnerships call for same-sex affairs to be grounds for split. As you'll see, they're a little bit late with this one. There are calls for same-sex affairs to be recognised as adultery when couples split. A woman from Cardiff said she was perplexed that infidelity was not a ground for ending her civil partnership as it was with a marriage type of divorce. This is obviously in the UK. Equality should apply in every aspect of the legal system, she said. Absolutely. The Ministry of Justice said a new no-fault divorce bill coming into effect in April will spare all couples the blame game, which, as we know, is the good news. But nonetheless, mother to Amy, not her real name, described the end of her relationship as devastating. Believing her wife was having an affair, she said her own behaviour changed as she repeatedly checked location apps in the hope of catching her out. It's all so cliché, she said. All of a sudden, she had to have her phone with her the whole time, taking it into the bathroom with her. It was more evening meetings, weekends away, and then absolute classic that this name kept coming up in conversation all the time. Amy told BBC Wales Live that she had no idea that the legal definition of adultery only recognised sexual intercourse between two people of the opposite sex. Why is there what seems to be clear discrimination, she said. Good point. It's all fine for same-sex people to have marriage, but we're not allowed to divorce on the grounds of adultery. It's a bit like Queen Victoria saying that being a lesbian doesn't exist, that women can't have it sort of feels a bit the same. It's completely ridiculous, but she's absolutely right to complain about it. But hopefully it's soon going to be not an issue, because Amy, in this case, she had to apply to end the relationship on the grounds of unreasonable behaviour, a process that she found incredibly difficult. I have to say, Amy, you should have come to me. It isn't difficult. We have a template. And actually, I always encourage, if you're thinking and you're not in a same-sex couple and you're considering divorce in the UK and you don't want to wait till April, then do consider not using adultery wherever possible and using unreasonable behaviour, because on the whole it's actually a lot less complicated and a lot less tricky. I can't help but wonder, she said, if I would have handled things differently if I had known that I could never have used adultery anyway, she said. I presume she means by that she might not have had to kind of try to find proof in that way, which probably would have been the case, and surely that would have been a benefit. Amy now wants to see the same progress on marriage equality in recent years as in the divorce reforms. To end a civil partnership in England and Wales, an individual will need to prove the relationship is broken down and cannot be saved citing one of four reasons. They are unreasonable behaviour, desertion, separation for 2 years if both parties agree to end it, and separation for 5 years if one disagrees. So for divorcing opposite sex couples, those grounds also apply, but adultery is also available as a reason. Family lawyer Elizabeth Saxby said the legal definition of adultery was from 1973 and probably isn't fit for purpose anymore. The research all points to it being kinder for families to have a no-fault option, she said. So rather than trying to amend the older laws and the laws surrounding adultery, they have concentrated on making it kinder for families. She said she understood the frustration of same-sex couples and hoped the changes next spring would benefit everyone. The Ministry of Justice said the new divorce bill would spare separating couples the need to apportion blame. Instead, a spouse or a couple will be able to apply for a divorce by making a statement of irretrievable breakdown. By sparing them the need to play the blame game, we are removing the antagonism that this creates so families can better move on with their lives, a spokesperson said. Well, let's hope it does come in April, because it was supposed to happen this year and they moved it. Bill Gates is at the lowest point on the Forbes list for 30 years, apparently because of his divorce. So the net worth of Microsoft co-founder rose $23 billion in last year. So he's still doing okay, but was outpaced by Bezos, Musk and Zuckerberg. Bill Gates is at his lowest point, says The Independent, on the Forbes 400 rich list in 30 years following his divorce from Melinda Gates. The co-founder of Microsoft's time as one of the richest people in the US has come to an end, partly because of stock transfers prompted by the end of his marriage. It's the first time since 1991 that Mr. Gates doesn't occupy the number 1 or number 2 slot on the Forbes 400 that ranks the wealthiest people in the US. Mr. Gates' net worth rose by $23 billion from last year, and he's now worth around $134 billion. He was outpaced by Jeff Bezos of Amazon, Elon Musk of Tesla and Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, leaving Mr. Gates in the number 4 spot. I don't think he minds though. The rising share prices of Amazon, Tesla and Facebook left Mr. Gates behind, but he also lost around $5.7 billion in shares in publicly traded companies to ex-wife Melinda French Gates following their divorce. I love the way they say lost. It's just so negative. It's like she's stolen it from him. The divorce was announced in May. Without the split, Mr. Gates would have ended up on the 3rd spot on the list ahead of Mr. Zuckerberg. But the net worths of billionaires can change fast. Following a 6-hour Facebook shutdown on Monday, I hope you've all recovered from that, and investigations into how the company's platforms affect younger people, specifically how Instagram affects the mental health of teen girls, Facebook's stock price plummeted, costing Mr. Zuckerberg an estimated $6 billion and putting Mr. Gates back as the 3rd richest person in the US. And last, we come to the Tattler. Songwriter Kirsty Bertarelli lands record-breaking £350 million divorce settlement. The former Miss UK has split with her billionaire businessman husband Ernesto Bertarelli. So from her days as a beauty queen to her career as a singer-songwriter and her marriage to Italian-born Swiss businessman Ernesto Bertarelli, which led to her ranking as Britain's richest woman on the 2017 Sunday Times Rich list, Kirsty Bertarelli has had quite the gilded life, says the article. Now her financial standing is set to become even more towering amidst reports she's been awarded a £350 million divorce settlement. According to the Daily Mail, the 50-year-old has undergone a secret divorce from Ernesto, which has come as a surprise to many following 21 years of marriage to her billionaire husband. A spokesman for the former couple told the paper, "It is with sadness that Ernesto and Kirsty Bertarelli confirmed that they have divorced." He added that the decision was a shared one and the separation amicable. Excellent. Concluding all issues arising from the divorce have been settled, and they would respectfully ask for privacy for their whole family at this time. As this is a private matter, there will be no further comment. Ernesto and Kirsty, who have 3 children together, are believed to have separated this year before their divorce was agreed in the summer. The former husband and wife were listed together at 14th place in this year's Sunday Times Rich list, with a combined estimated fortune of £9.2 billion, larger than the GDP of a number of countries like the Bahamas and Armenia. Although the size of Kirsty's settlement has not been publicly disclosed, the Mail speculates that she has accepted a sum of £350 million, making her the wealthiest British-born divorcee in legal history. Her total fortune is now thought to exceed that of the Queen, as well as famous pop stars including Sir Mick Jagger and Ed Sheeran. See, that's how it works out. If you do a good prenup, no fighting, everything's peaceful, and you still end up stinking rich. On top of the settlement, Kirsty has also reportedly received a lavish contemporary home located beside Lake Geneva in Switzerland, purchased this year for £52 million. She's also the owner of an £8 million ski chalet in the glamorous Swiss resort of Gstaad. Kirsty is understood to have signed a prenuptial agreement ahead of her marriage to Bertarelli in 2000. This could be the key bit. A source dubbed a friend told the Mail the settlement was more generous than it had to be. They didn't want a long, drawn-out court case in Switzerland, and he wanted to recognise the length of their marriage. Kirsty plays a key role as a trustee for her husband's family's Bertarelli Foundation, which focuses on neuroscience research and marine conservation. Her activities with the foundation have been particularly orientated on community work in Stoke-on-Trent, near where she grew up, such as establishing a bursary scheme for disadvantaged students at Staffordshire University. But hopefully she's got plenty of money to help support that ongoing. So that's great work, Kirsty. So we're going to now move on to our expert interview. Welcome, Susan. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you, Susie, for having me. I'm happy to be here.
And I'm really looking forward to this conversation because there are obviously, I come across people who they don't really want to divorce. They've got children, but they just can't stay married. And you've come up with another solution, haven't you?
I have, after working with, divorcing and unhappily married couples for about 17 years, I developed something because I had a couple who couldn't decide whether to stay or go. And I said, why don't you do both after working with them for several months? And that was the beginning of what I call the parenting marriage. And it's become quite a popular option, not just in the US, but all over the world, actually. And it's something where if the romantic connection between a couple's gone and it's not going to come back, but so normally the couple would divorce, but they have children and they therefore want to stay for the kids, they can actually stay in a way that is on purpose. And I call it doing a parenting marriage by design rather than by default. So it feels better.
That sounds perfect initially, and then my first thought in my mind is, what if they want to have other relationships? Or I mean, obviously they can't go off and get married to someone else if they're still married. So how does that all work? Do they basically have to become abstinent?
No, they don't have to become abstinent. And it is absolutely one of the trickiest aspects of the parenting marriage. I tell people who are starting to do one that that's really advanced. And I would never tell people to get into a relationship quickly. Generally speaking, the way that this works best, the parenting marriage that is when both people in the couple agree that the marriage that they once had is over and that they're switching the focus from a love-based relationship to a purpose-based relationship. So when that happens, people can often let go of the need to be the other person's only partner. It doesn't always work. It can be tricky. That's where counseling can come in and really help the person who's having a hard time, if their partner has moved on, to be more accepting of the reality. So it does work. I mean, it's something I'm getting people inquiring every day about this. So I know it's struck a nerve with people.
Do you? I suppose my first thought is that because I know people who they've had open relations, like having an open relationship, I guess, in a way. And as you said,
Right.
it can be tricky because sometimes it's not very balanced, shall we say? But if you can get that balance right, and you're going into it in a very conscious way, do the couple need to be living in the same house as the children? Is that kind of part of how it works?
It is usually part of how it works, but I will say I've had people who actually get divorced and then, so they're legally not together, but they want to stay in the same house and they can do that. And I've had couples who live in separate homes, but consider themselves in a parenting marriage and never go through a divorce. So there are all kinds of variations and it depends on what the couple needs. And I do want to just say that the biggest difference between an open marriage and a parenting marriage is that the primary focus in a parenting marriage is on the kids, whereas the primary focus in an open marriage is on sexual relationships with other people.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's a really important point to make. Yes. And do you feel that this is something? This is something that's, you said it's all around the world, but is there other particular cultures, and particularly even parts of America, particular cities, have embraced this more?
I think where there tend to be more progressive mindsets. So generally speaking, on the east and west coasts of the U.S., there tend to be more people interested. I think much of Canada and Europe has been way ahead of the U.S. in terms of progressive options for couples. You mentioned in the intro the civil unions, and we really don't recognize civil unions in the US. So, yeah. So, I think that wherever cultures are more open to options for couples, rather than the traditional one size fits all male female, living in the same house, having made a vow to stay together forever. So, yeah.
I mean, I love the idea of I think every marriage, every co-parenting relationship needs to be bespoke for that couple. So that's why I was really keen to hear these other ways of doing it. One thought that does come into my mind, only mainly because I've just been running a divorcing a difficult spouse workshop, and there's a lot of dysfunctional relationships where there's people very much on the narcissism spectrum. Is how do you, when you're working with people, avoid this just becoming effectively a way of keeping control of the other person and continuing the abuse through the co-parenting?
Well, thank you for asking that question. There are many couples for whom a parenting marriage is not a good fit, and a narcissistic person in the couple is one of those situations. Another example of that is someone where there's addiction, where there's any kind of domestic violence or abuse going on. So I do tell people this is not an option for everyone. And so it probably wouldn't work if one of the people in the couple is narcissistic. Yeah.
There needs to be a real
Um,
balance of power, shall we say, and good and very
yeah.
good communication. And how do the children take to this?
Well, one thing I wanted to add, which ties into this question, is the fact that, if you're going to stay together and have a toxic relationship, you're not doing the kids any favor. So it is better sometimes to split. There are some couples who simply cannot stop fighting. But generally speaking, when it works well and both people accept that the marriage is over and they want to cohabitate, then they can hold it lightly and just present it to the kids. By the way, mom and dad are not going to spend as much time together. Have you noticed that we've stopped fighting? It's because we just agreed that we're going to just, not spend as much time together. But we still love you, and we're always going to be your parents. And that's really what kids need to know, is that they are loved and that their parents respect each other.
I could see a really powerful application for this for as a transition. So sometimes people
Absolutely.
here, and I don't know if they do it much in the States, will have a separation agreement because they just can't face going for the whole divorce yet. But often it's just another expense, really. And I often say to them, just get on with it. But to have something like this where they can work together and they have got a good co-parenting relationship and they just don't want to pretend if anymore, if you like. I could see this could be a great thing that either as a ongoing, but also potentially as a transition till they're ready and the children are ready, because presumably it does involve certain changes. There may be things that they need to sort out financially. How
Mm-hmm.
does the sort of practical side work?
I love that you picked up on that. A parenting marriage can be used in several different ways. One is just as a timeout for couples to just say, we don't know what we want to do. We need some time and space. It can also be used as one couple I worked with called it a soft landing to divorce, and I love that. And they basically used it and figured out their finances and their custody, but they were still living in the same house. And then they ultimately got divorced, and their daughter was already used to living in that way. And it can also be used as something until the last child's out of the house, off to college or a job. And it can, in some cases, be used indefinitely. So I have one couple here in the Bay Area that just has continued to live like this
Yeah.
because it works. So, why not? But it's a very flexible option that can, as you said, it helps people feel like they're doing this because it's their choice and they're not stuck in a bad situation.
They're not just separated, getting on well. They're actually in a parenting divorce. I think it's so parenting marriage. Sorry, I think that's a fantastic concept. I'd love to. We must talk. I'd love to have a chat with
Definitely.
you sometime next week and talk about that, because I think it's a great idea. What's your advice to anyone who's watching, who's thinking, oh, that sounds like a good option? Is there anything apart from making sure there's a good balance of power, should we say, in a relationship? There needs to be fundamentally the ability to work together as co-parents. Is there any particular advice you give? For example, create a co-parenting plan. I imagine
Yes,
would be a good
exactly.
start.
Yes, I was going to
Yeah,
say clarity. And, you know, um, couples can get a postnup if they would like. So that's the agreement
yeah.
that lays out what their finances are going to be and all the custody. I have a workbook called the Parenting Marriage Workbook, where I have a template in there with some examples of what people have agreed to. And the couple can obviously personalize that agreement, but without question, the more you can discuss and agree on, the less room there is for dashed expectations or fighting over something.
And one of the things I've found with, particularly with women who've come to me to find out about divorce, I always say don't get stuck on the D word. Do you want financial independence? Because that's often at the root of it, and they usually say yes. And so, as you said, a post-nup, looking at the financial situation, apart from making, if they do then divorce, they've done all the hard work. But
Exactly.
sometimes actually they then are quite happy to stay married because they've got that, they've sorted stuff out that they just hadn't really talked about before. So no, that's wonderful. I look forward to finding out more. Thank you so
Well,
much for
thank
coming on the
you.
show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I love the work that you're doing. It's a great service.
Thank you. Speak to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Okay. Bye bye.
Wow, I love that. That's so cool. I'm looking forward to finding out more. The more options, the more ways we have of independently organising our own lives with our children, and not just getting stuck on one railway track, the better. Quick learning. So I'm still working through, I love this, the Children's Bill of Rights. And this is by Robert Emery, PhD. He wrote this as Professor of Psychology at the University of Virginia. And these are the 10 Bill of Rights for the children who are of divorce. And any of you who are parents who are in any stage of divorce, it'd be really good to read them. They're very powerful. So we're on number 8. And number 8 is the right to have feelings. This is your child's right to have feelings, to express feelings, and to have both parents listen to how they feel. You think, yeah, obviously, but actually think about it. I mean, I can certainly hold my hand up for this. Quite often when we're going through difficult times as parents, is all about our worries and our problems, and we don't always make time to listen to what the children are worried about. But the real problem here is they don't want to tell us because they don't want to load more on top of us. They see we're unhappy or concerned or worried, so they don't want to add to that. So what I would really encourage you to do, because they're not necessarily going to tell you what's going on for them even if you ask them, is think about not just counselling but coaching. You can get some great kids coach, especially for teenagers. They don't necessarily want to go to a counsellor, but a coach can be really valuable. Somebody independent, trained, who can talk to them and listen to them and hear their worries, who is never going to snitch. So the other one is possibly close family members, but your child would have to really trust that close family member was not going to allow you to find out what are they worried about, what do they say, because the whole point is it has to be confidential. So the right to have feelings, to express your feelings, and to have both parents listen to how you feel, put that one on the fridge. And for our shared story now, it's one from the archives. It was a father who was a member of the Secret Divorce Group, and he very anonymously with his voiceover. He shared his story, and I really love this story. And I do encourage any of those who are at a point where you feel you have got something to share that you think would be useful to others, do get in contact. I would love to record that, and you can do it anonymously if you want.
I suppose what I would say is, tonight, it's a beautiful day out there. It's sunny. It's warm. I've been in a relatively sort of good mood. It's one of those sort of evenings, so I quite often put a positive spin on things, but that masks what is, still a complete roller coaster, So actually, I think, I don't know when it was. I remember. Yeah, actually, it was a week last Monday. And I just had a really low day, and then in the evening, I think it was just before that Wednesday when everything was supposed to be, a bit more free and easy with the lockdown slightly, and I just had to get in the car and just drive. I really felt low. With that comes an element of acceptance, but also sort of shock that I'm still in this situation where, I'm in a sort of limbo. We are, because we're still in the same house. That hasn't changed, and also sort of emotionally as well. Still, and there's an element of trauma. Being sort of on the receiving end of someone who had an affair to whatever extent, and I still don't even know the extent. I think it was a cry for help from her part as much as anything. And the other thing I'm aware of was that our 8-year-old daughter, well, there's still a few years to go there, of course, but probably she's entering her teenage years soon. She's already has some mobility, going into the town with her friend. Before I know it, she'll have that sort of freedom. Was it really worth that huge battle, potentially legal battle, financial, to go through the childcare arrangements? And so the question really is, in terms of using your sort of strategy approach, your guidance, what the advantage has been. I think it's a sort of simple answer in some ways, because it means that it's taken a sort of holistic approach where it's kept all what is an incredibly complex process glued together in some way, and not just a sort of chaotic mess of legality, emotions, finances. It's kept a sort of a balance between all of those things, with a way forward in those things, whether it's emotionally, financially, legally. That initial conversation is useful because it means, and I think that's the point I was at when I went to the financial workshop, although it wasn't just about the finances, it was realizing that the sort of balance was swinging towards a situation where things were not going to work out. But it was having an anchor of some kind to grab hold of, and not just be in a sea of absolute chaos. So yeah, I think actually what we talked about in terms of sort of quality of time and the way you spend time with others, whatever those relationships are, account for a lot, actually. And I never appreciated that, and that's why I am in this position. It's not just me, of course it's not me, but and there are lots of reasons why that may have happened, but I never appreciated enough what I had, actually, and so if the benefit comes, and it's still early for me in that, I think, but if there's a benefit to it all, then it's sort of, a new lease of life, but with an ability to appreciate what I have around me and live in the moment more. Because I never lived in the moment. That was the problem. It was always, looking at the future, bigger, better, wanting more. And even though that was in the interest of my family, as I thought, it wasn't really, because what they wanted is me, and they wanted me here. And by the time I realised that, it was too late, So in terms of the relationship and the life, so yeah, something like that.
I find that such a moving little piece, and I really honour him for sharing that, because I'm sure that will speak to many, many, many dads. Just want to say a little thing on that note of staying on track and not going down the wrong road. It's fantastic that he got that realisation in the end. That's going to benefit his co-parenting relationship as well with his ex-wife ongoing. But I have come across recently some lovely people who were part of the Secret Divorce group, which I keep at £29 or $29, depending on which country you come in from, because everyone can pretty much afford that, and they get 30 days free. And the reason I bang on about it is I do that for a reason, because it's very easy to go off track and to have all that information from a workshop or a session and then get waylaid. And I consistently have people who leave, and the next thing I know, 6 months later, they're back and they've spent £5,000, £10,000 on legal fees, which they may have been able to avoid. But more importantly, they're really stressed and confused, and I just wish they'd stayed in the group, because once a month I'm there on Zoom at 8 o'clock to give them that time. If they can't afford a one-to-one session, you can come into that session. Very few people turn up, so they practically get me for the whole session. And just being able to text and message in the group, because it's so important to keep on top of these things. You can't just get a hit of information and then expect everything to flow, because it is complex and it is emotionally confusing. So I just thought I'd put that bit in. So let's move on to healing. I'm welcoming now Sarah Jane. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sarah.
Hello, thank you for having me.
And what exciting healing are you going to be doing with us?
So I'm going to do one of my key feature meditations, which is all about your future self, which is really important area that you should focus on when you're especially going through this process. You can get very caught up in the now or even the past, and tend to neglect actually what is your end goal, whether you're the divorcing party or you're being divorced. It's really key to actually imagine and indulge yourself in what you would like your life to be. So meditation is a great way to escape from what's going on right now, but also to focus and direct your thoughts and actions in the right way.
And I like what you said there, indulge yourself, because unfortunately for a lot of women, we think it's some kind of we shouldn't be allowed to give ourselves some time and to think about what we want, because we're just so busy coping. But actually it's really, really important for our mental health and physical health, isn't it? And I love the way that you're using meditation in this. It's not just to chill, but to use it in a very constructive way. So before we launch into it, do people just sit quietly, give us a little guidance of what we
so what I'll do, I will yes what I'll do is I'll work you through the process. So you can sit with your eyes open if you want to, or you can sit with your eyes closed. That tends to be the best way. Sit upright, and this can be done in less than 5 minutes, so you don't need to spend a great amount of time. You don't need to be the expert meditator, so just follow my guidance, my instructions, and you will be absolutely fine.
And people will, of course, be able to watch this at any time if they want to have another hit. So that's great. Thank you. I shall give you the floor.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining me this evening. What I would like you to do, if you could close your eyes, if you're comfortable with that. And I want you to take a deep breath in, and I really want you to fill your lungs and feel your belly coming out. So deep breath in. And as you exhale through your nose or your mouth, just let everything go. And again, deep breath in, nice long deep inhale. And exhale. One more time. Deep belly filling breath in and exhale. Now all I want you to do now is just to keep your eyes closed, and I want you to visualize just your body relaxing, and I'm going to work you through this process. So from the very, very top of your head, I want you to relax all the hairs on your head, going down your neck. Just relax the muscles, and if you want to, just move your shoulders.
Sorry,
I'm having trouble understanding right now.
Move
Please
your
try a little
shoulders,
later.
move your neck, side to side, roll your shoulders. Just let all that tension and worry just drift away. Just take your focus and attention, your awareness down your arms. Let your arms hang heavy. And we're just breathing normally now. You can't do anything wrong. There's no way to fail at this. Just follow my instructions. Now bring your awareness back up your arms to the top of your shoulders. And you're just going to consciously relax each vertebrae of your back, your spine. Just taking that awareness down your spine to your hips. Just breathing normally as we're just relaxing our body and bringing focus and attention to any areas of our body that are tight. We hold stress in our body, so if you need to, just wiggle your hips, move around, just get rid of any stiffness. I want to take your awareness down from your hips to your knees, to your feet, and just take this as an opportunity just to roll your feet around, just move, loosen up your ankles. Just breathe in normally. So take your attention back up your body. Just follow that line of energy back up your body to your knees, to your hips. And I want you to focus on the base of your hips, around your belly. This is where we hold a lot of tension. This is the area of our body which is all about security, safety. So just release any tension there. Just visually imagine all that tension just melting away and drifting away. Then take your awareness up to your heart. And if it feels tight or heavy, just breathe into that. Just become aware of it. And as you exhale, just release that tension out. Excellent, well done. Now take your focus and awareness, travelling back up your body to your throat, to your head. And this is where we're going to go through a visualization exercise. So taking your attention to your forehead, imagine you've got a screen on the inside of your forehead with your eyes closed. I want you to imagine yourself, you're stood at the start of a bridge. On the left hand side at the start of this bridge is you now, how you stand today, everything in your life and the things that are going on. And on the other side of the bridge is a version of you, maybe 6 months, 12 months down the line. And I want you to take a moment to visualize, to think about, what does this future you look like? What is that person wearing? What is that person doing? And I really want you to indulge. I really want you to focus on the positive aspects. I really want you to dream big. I really want you to think of all those things that maybe you've not let yourself open up to the possibilities of happening. So imagine that person on the other side of the bridge. They might be happy. They might be out having an adventure. They might be at the beach. They might be doing all the things, passions, hobbies, anything that's been on that bucket list. So take a moment now just to visualize at the top, at the front of your forehead, on your TV screen that you're projecting out, what this future version of you is doing right now. And I want you to feel what they're feeling. I want you to think about, what are they doing with that life? How's it impacting them? You can come back to this at any time. Just build on that, make the colours brighter and bigger and more detailed. And then go back to you now, the start of that bridge on the left-hand side of that bridge. And I want you to take that big step forward onto the bridge, that step forward into the future. And you're walking over the bridge, and with every step you're getting closer, you can see this future version of you. And they look happy. They're having an amazing time. They're positive, they're focused, they're achieving amazing things. And you're walking closer and closer to them. And as you come up to them, as you get over that bridge and you greet yourself on the other side, future you, you give them the biggest hug. And as you do that, you integrate with each other, you become one. The now version of you has become the future version of you. So just take a deep breath in and imagine that in your body right now. Just fire off all those visions of yourself, all those things you're doing across your body. Every muscle in your body, every cell has that picture of that future you. And just take a deep breath in and just smile and know that you're making positive steps and positive action towards that future view of yourself. And when you're ready, just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, and just open your eyes back to the moment now. So if you enjoyed that, then please feel free to visit www.sj-lewis.com/meditation for a longer version and an audio copy of that meditation and a future self guide to help you work your way through. But thank you very much for listening to the meditation today.
Thank you very much, and hopefully Sarah Jane will be putting links on after this goes. This was live now, but within the next 24 hours you should appear in the comments links, so you'll be able to access more information about her as well. So thank you for joining me today and all my guests. And as we all know, in the war of divorce, on the battlefield of family separation, we must always make peace our weapon of choice.